Ever walked into a room and felt like no one noticed you, like your presence didn't carry weight? Meanwhile, someone else walks in without saying a word, and everyone pays attention. Why? It's not money, it's not status, it's because they're unreadable. When people can't figure you out, they can't control you, and that makes you powerful. Picture this: two warriors face off. One yells, trying to intimidate. The other, silent, calm, unreadable. His opponent hesitates, not because of his strength, but because of the unknown. That's the power of mystery. Why most people lose respect without realizing it. Most people talk too much, react too fast, and give away their power. And when people can predict you, they stop respecting you. But today, you'll learn how to stay unreadable, in control, and impossible to ignore. Let's get started. You're easier to read than you think. Most people think they're in control. They believe their thoughts, emotions, and actions are their own. But the truth? You're more predictable than you realize. And if someone can predict you, they can manipulate you, control you, and strip you of your power. The men who couldn't be read. History's most powerful figures had one thing in common. They were impossible to predict. Marcus Aurelius never reacted out of emotion. His enemies never knew what he was thinking. Miyamoto Musashi, Japan's greatest samurai, was unpredictable in battle, always one step ahead. Napoleon Bonaparte controlled entire battlefields by being unreadable, making his opponents second-guess every move. These men weren't the strongest. They weren't the loudest, but they were impossible to control, and that made them dangerous. Why this matters to you? If someone can predict you, they can control you. If people know how you'll react, they'll use it against you. But if they can't read you, they have no choice but to respect you. What you'll learn in this video. Today, you'll learn how to stop being predictable, how to control your emotions, stay unreadable, and make people second-guess every move you make. Because once you master this skill, no one will ever be able to manipulate you again. Let's get started. Strategy 1. Don't react. Make them guess. Most people don't realize how predictable they are. They wear their emotions on their faces. Their body language gives everything away. And worst of all, they react exactly the way people expect them to. That's why they get manipulated. That's why they get played. Because when someone knows how you'll respond, they can control you like a puppet. But what happens when you don't react? What happens when you just sit there, calm, unreadable, while they're waiting for a reaction that never comes? They start to feel uneasy. They start second-guessing themselves. And suddenly, they're the ones on the defensive. That's how power shifts. Not through aggression, not through arguments, but through silence. Napoleon's silence, how to win without speaking. Let me paint you a picture. Napoleon Bonaparte is standing in front of a crowd, his soldiers, his men. A political rival steps forward, loud, arrogant, ready to make a statement. He insults Napoleon, challenges him, tries to force him into a reaction. Now, most people in that position would snap back, defend themselves, prove a point. Not Napoleon. He doesn't say a word, he just stands there, silent, staring, completely still. And you know what happens next? The man, who was so confident just seconds ago, starts to fall apart. He keeps talking, trying to justify himself. His words become less powerful, more desperate. Why? Because he expected a fight, but he wasn't prepared for silence. And in that moment, Napoleon won. Not with words, not with force, but with presence. Why most people lose power without realizing it. You ever see someone get triggered by a small insult? Someone makes a sarcastic remark, and they immediately try to fire back. Someone questions them in a meeting, and they scramble to explain themselves. Someone ignores their message, and they instantly double text. What do all these reactions have in common? They show insecurity. The moment you jump to defend yourself, to explain, to prove something, you're telling the world that their opinion of you matters more than your own. And that's weakness. Now, contrast that with someone who doesn't react. They don't rush to explain themselves. They don't get defensive. They don't feel the need to prove anything. And suddenly, people start paying attention. Because when someone doesn't react the way we expect, we start wondering, what are they thinking? Why aren't they affected? Do they know something I don't? And just like that, the balance of power shifts. How to apply this in real life? Next time someone tries to provoke you, pause, let them sit in the silence, make them uncomfortable with their own words. Most people can't handle it. They'll start over-explaining, backtracking, or filling the void. 2. Use your body language. Don't fidget, don't look away. A still, calm posture is more intimidating than any words you could say. 3. When you finally speak, slow down. People who rush to respond seem insecure. People who take their time, they control the conversation. Powerful people don't rush. They don't explain themselves. They don't react on impulse. They let other people reveal themselves first. Mastering your reactions is one thing, but if you want to go deeper, if you want to be truly unreadable, you need to learn how to turn silence into a weapon. Because when you use it right, silence isn't empty, it's powerful, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. Strategy 2. Turn silence into a weapon. Silence makes most people uncomfortable. Most people underestimate silence. They think power comes from speaking, when in reality, true power comes from making others speak first. But powerful people, they do the opposite. They use silence to create tension, to control conversations, to force people to reveal more than they should, because when someone doesn't know what you're thinking, they start second-guessing themselves, and that's where the real power begins. Miyamoto Musashi. How a warrior used silence to win before the fight even started. Miyamoto Musashi wasn't just Japan's greatest samurai, he was a master of psychological warfare. One of his most famous tactics, arriving late to a duel. Now, in the world of the samurai, punctuality was everything. It was a sign of respect, discipline, and honor. But Musashi, he broke that rule on purpose. His opponents would arrive on time, focused, ready to fight. Then they would wait. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and as the silence stretched, their focus would start to break. Doubt would creep in. Why is he late? Is this part of his strategy? What if he's watching me right now? By the time Musashi finally arrived, calm, slow, and completely in control, his opponents were already shaken. The duel hadn't even started, but he had already won the mental battle. Why silence makes people nervous? Have you ever noticed what happens when a conversation suddenly goes quiet? People shift in their seats. They clear their throat. They say something, anything, to break the silence. Most people can't handle the tension of an unanswered question or an unfilled pause. And that's exactly why silence is so powerful. It forces the other person to react first, and the first person to break loses control. How to use silence to control any conversation. 1 pause before answering important questions. Someone asks you something direct. Don't answer immediately. Hold the silence for 3 to 5 seconds. Watch as they start shifting, wondering what you're thinking. 2. Use silence to make people over-explain. If someone is lying or trying to manipulate you, just stay quiet. Most people can't handle the tension, so they'll keep talking and expose themselves. 3. Let people feel the weight of your presence. Instead of filling every gap in a conversation, say less. When you speak less, your words hold more weight. Because here's the truth. Silence isn't weakness, it's control. What comes next? Controlling how people see you. Silence is just one part of the game. If you really want to be mysterious and unpredictable, you need to go further. Because it's not just about what you say, it's about how people perceive you. And that's what we're going to talk about next. Strategy 3. Say less. Let them fill in the gaps. Most people talk too much. They overshare. They over-explain. They reveal their thoughts, feelings, and insecurities without even realizing it. And every time they do, they give away control. Because the more someone knows about you, the easier you are to predict. The easier you are to predict, the easier you are to manipulate. And if people can manipulate you, you've already lost. Why powerful people speak less. The most powerful people in the world don't talk just to talk. They say only what's necessary and nothing more. Winston Churchill, one of history's greatest leaders, once said, "Silence is the best friend of a leader." Why? Because silence makes people uncomfortable. Because the less you say, the more weight your words carry. Because when you say little, people lean in to listen. And most importantly, when you speak less, you become harder to read. That's why mysterious people don't just stay silent. They let others do the talking. And in the process, they gather information while revealing nothing. Why talking too much makes you weak? Have you ever met someone who just wouldn't stop talking? They explain their plans in too much detail. They tell you their entire life story before you even ask. They share their emotions and insecurities with people they barely know. And without realizing it, they make themselves easy to figure out. If they're nervous, you can see it. If they're hiding something, they'll talk until they slip up. If they want something, they'll tell you before you even have to ask. And the moment someone knows what you're thinking, they can use it against you. That's why weak people talk too much, and why strong people don't. How to apply this in real life? 1. When someone asks about your plans, be vague. Instead of saying, "I'm thinking of doing X because of Y and Z," say, "I have some ideas." Let them guess. Let them wonder. 2. Speak less than the person you're talking to. The more they talk, the more they reveal. The less you talk, the more mysterious you become. 3. Never explain yourself unless absolutely necessary. People who feel the need to justify every decision seem weak. Powerful people, they make their choices and let others react. Because here's the truth, the less they know about you, the more they have to respect you. What comes next? Control who has access to you. Speaking less makes you powerful, but not everyone deserves access to you in the first place, because the moment you become too available, you lose value. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. Strategy 4. Control who has access to you. Most people make a critical mistake. They make themselves too available. They pick up every call. They answer every message immediately. They say yes to every invitation. And in doing so, they lower their value. Because when people know they can reach you anytime, anywhere, they stop respecting your presence. And once they stop respecting your presence, they stop respecting you. Why exclusivity creates power. Look at the most respected people in the world. Do you think you could just call up Elon Musk right now and get a response? Could you text Tom Hardy and expect an instant reply? Could you ask Marcus Aurelius to grab coffee anytime he was free? Of course not. Because powerful people aren't always available. And that scarcity, it makes them valuable. When something is too common, too accessible, too easy to get, it loses its importance. It's the reason why celebrities don't give interviews to just anyone. Luxury brands limit their products. The best mentors don't waste time with people who don't value them. If you want people to respect you, you must become a limited resource, because the rarer something is, the more valuable it becomes. Why being too available makes you weak? You've probably seen this happen before. A person starts dating someone new. At first, there's excitement, mystery, a sense of the unknown. But then, they start texting all the time. They're available whenever the other person wants to meet. They drop everything at a moment's notice. And just like that, the excitement is gone. Not because they're a bad person, not because they did anything wrong, but because they became too predictable, too easy, too accessible. And that's exactly why most people lose respect in their relationships, their friendships, and even their careers. Because when you give people too much of your time, too easily, they take it for granted. And when they take it for granted, they stop appreciating it. How to apply this in real life? Delay your responses. Stop replying instantly to every message. If someone doesn't respect your time, don't reward them with it. Be selective with your availability. Stop saying yes to every invitation. Show up when you decide, not when others expect you to. 3. Let people feel your absence. Take breaks from social media. Disappear for a while and watch how people start wondering where you are. Because here's the truth. The less you give, the more they value. What comes next? How to control your image. You now understand how limiting access makes you more powerful. But real power? It's not just about who gets access. It's about controlling the way people see you, without them even realizing it. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. Strategy number 5. Make your presence rare and valuable. There's a simple truth about human nature. The rarer something is, the more valuable it becomes. It applies to everything: gold, luxury cars, exclusive clubs, and it applies to you. Because when people can't always have access to you, they start valuing every moment you're there. But when you're always around, always available, you become background noise. And background noise gets ignored. The power of limited presence. Let's talk about Miyamoto Musashi, Japan's greatest samurai. Musashi had many students, but he wasn't always there. He didn't train with them every day. He didn't always give them direct answers. Instead, he would disappear for long periods of time. And when he finally returned, every word he spoke carried weight. Why? Because his students had time to think, reflect, and anticipate his return. And when he was finally there, they hung onto his every word. If Musashi had been available every second of every day, they would have taken him for granted. That's human nature. People respect what they don't always have access to. Why always being around makes you invisible? Ever wonder why certain people lose their appeal over time? The friend who's always available to hang out. The co-worker who never says no to extra work. The person in a relationship who is always texting, always calling, always there. At first, people appreciate it. But then, it becomes expected. And once something is expected, it's no longer special. That's why people lose interest, lose respect, lose attraction. Because when you're too available, too predictable, too easy to reach, your presence loses its value. How to apply this in real life? Make your presence intentional. Don't always be the first to show up. Let people notice your absence before they appreciate your presence. 2. Take time away without explanation. Vanish from social media. Stop texting first all the time. Let people wonder where you are. 3. Speak less, but make your words count. When you talk, say something that actually matters. People who speak less are listened to more. Because here's the truth. The more people have to wait for you, the more they will respect you. You now know how to control your presence. But here's the real test. Can you maintain it? Power isn't about what you do once. It's about what you do consistently, and that's what separates those who command respect from those who are forgotten. Because knowledge alone is useless. Only applied knowledge creates real change. By now, you understand how to control your emotions. Use silence as a weapon. Say less to make people lean in. Limit access to make people value you. Make your presence rare so it's respected. But here's the thing. Knowing these strategies is useless if you don't apply them. Because most people, they'll hear this, nod their head, and then go back to being predictable. But a few will actually start using these techniques, and those few, they'll never be ignored again. So the question is, are you going to stay the same, or are you going to start playing the game differently? The choice is yours. By now, you've learned how to become mysterious, unreadable, and completely unpredictable. And if you've been paying attention, you already know. This isn't just about appearing mysterious. It's about control. Control over how people see you. Control over how they react to you. Control over the power dynamic in every situation. The 5 strategies that change everything. Don't react immediately. Every time you respond on impulse, you give people power over you. Instead, pause. Make them wait. Use silence to control people. Most people can't handle silence. It makes them nervous, desperate to fill the gap. Let them break before you do. Say less than necessary. The less you say, the more people wonder what you're thinking. Make them fill in the gaps themselves. Limit who has access to you. The more available you are, the less valuable you become. Make people earn your time, your attention, and your energy. Make your presence rare. Anything that's always available loses its value. The less you're seen, the more your presence is respected. Now, you have a choice. You can go back to being predictable, reacting emotionally, explaining too much, and making yourself too available. Or you can start applying these strategies today. You can become the person who walks into a room and instantly commands respect without saying a word. Most people will watch this video and do nothing. They'll go back to reacting, over-explaining, and making themselves too available. And they'll keep wondering why no one respects them. But a few will take action. A few will apply these strategies and become unreadable, untouchable. The question is, will that be you? So the only question left is, are you going to stay the same? Or are you going to become the kind of person no one can figure out? The choice is yours.